some dog who called to my heart. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a thick black patch of carpet rolled up on a kennel floor and felt the nudge to take a closer look. As we headed out the door, past the cage that had caught my eye, the rolled up carpet came alive. A head popped up off the floor. 4 little legs, which had been stretched out front and back, lifted the dog's black body up from the concrete. A pair of dark, deep eyes with an expression of wanton longing transfixed me. "Could we take a look at that little Cocker Spaniel before I leave?" I asked the volunteer. "Sure," she said. "You can see Harley." The cage door clanged open after the volunteer removed its metal lock. She wrapped a blue leash that looked like a lasso around the dog's neck and brought him to us. The dog skittered forward, tugging her along with nervous energy, heading for whatever freedom he imagined outside his prison cell. As the volunteer and Alan walked the dog toward a private room where we could visit, I stopped to read the sign posted on the dog's cage door. It listed his breed, size, 25 pounds, and coloring. In the section labeled Reason for Relinquishment, there was only one word: abandoned. Can you imagine? I mean, it's just hard to imagine it, but that's what he was. So he was our little abandoned dog, and of course we were going to be very mature about this, and we weren't going to make an impulsive decision. And so we said, well, we should think about this. And we were still grieving over Taylor, and we just weren't quite sure. And I don't know if you've gone through this, but you feel a little guilty, because you love and you're grieving over the previous dog, and you're wondering, are you kind of cheating on him or something, if you go get another dog. And so we said, well, the volunteer said, well, you can put him on 24-hour hold. And so we said we would do that. And we said we had to go home and talk to the bird and the cats. So we went home and we had this conversation with the bird and the cats, and we said, this isn't Taylor, but, we want to bring this dog home. And, they were like, oh, yeah, great. I don't have to, I can't protect the house. What am I going to do with just these little claws and meowing? We need a dog around here. And so we drove back to the shelter. We just thought, oh, we can't leave him there one more night. So we drove back to the shelter, brought him home. Now, this is the way it always works, not always, but this is the way it works a lot of times with rescue dogs. I mean, your heart is just wide open, and you just, there you are, you're ready to go, and you want to do everything you can, and you're so happy to bring them home and make a home for them. And then you bring them home, and, all hell breaks loose. So that's exactly what happened. All hell broke loose. And I mean, this dog was hell from day one because he was so traumatized. I mean, he basically had post-traumatic stress disorder because he had been just left on the side of the road, and evidently somebody picked him up on a Harley, and that's why they named him Harley, and they dropped him off at the animal shelter. And so when we took him for his first walk, he just threw his body into a pile of leaves. It was in the autumn, and he just loved leaves, and this name just popped into my mind, Leaf, and he liked it, and so that's what his name became, Leaf. So anyway, it took us, I had this fantasy of a affectionate little cuddle bug dog, because Taylor was kind of big, and she was crazy about Alan. She loved me, but she adored Alan. And so I had this little dog that would sleep by my feet while I worked and jump up on my lap. Well, Leaf wouldn't have anything to do with me. He just was, he was just like this. He was like a leaf. I mean, he was just, running around in circles, and he'd never been in a house. You could tell that. He was completely unhouse trained. And not just unhouse trained, but I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but when the first time his paws touched carpet, he was like this, I mean, he'd just never been in a house, and he just didn't know what to do. Evidently, he'd just been kept outdoors in Minnesota, of all things. So anyway, we brought him home and did everything we could, but he just wasn't affectionate, and I never had a dog who wouldn't kiss me. That's the title of the story, the dog who wouldn't kiss me. And I was feeling kind of disappointed, but we were getting closer, and he was calming down some. So let me just read this other section to you. I don't remember the exact date that it happened. A couple of months after Leaf became a member of our family, I bent down to kiss him on the forehead between his eyes. He raised his head and examined my face carefully, as he had on our first visit at the animal shelter. Then with his raspy pink tongue, he planted a big wet kiss, not on my mouth, but on my nose. One kiss. I thought I would die of happiness. From that point on, our kissing sessions burgeoned from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 carefully placed nose licks. By Christmas, I was the thrilled recipient of kisses in the morning, kisses in the evening, and definitely kisses at his supper time. So now I want to read one more section about what he was like 6 months after that. About 6 months ago, Leaf started a new bedtime ritual. He jumps up on our bed, paws at Alan's side, pulls down the covers, and assiduously prepares it for his favorite playmate's arrival. Then he rolls over on his back while I rub his tummy. I ask, "How was your day?" He vocalizes by moaning and moving his mouth, trying to say words that will tell me about his visit to the dog park, our walk around the lake, or the fact that Alan took him to the pet supply store, whatever constitutes the highlights of a pampered Cocker Spaniel's existence. After I'm tucked in with my head propped up on pillows and a book in my hand to read, he sits at my shoulder and gazes lovingly and intensely into my eyes. His nighttime kissing centers on my nose, which he carefully and methodically, up and down and sideways, licks for as much as a minute. Satisfied that he's settled me in for the night, he says good night to Alan with a lick or two. I get many more kisses, I guess, because Leaf knows I need them. He rests his head on my shoulder and falls asleep while I read. He stays there until I turn off the light. At that point, he jumps off the bed and goes back to sleep, either on his adjacent dog bed or in the bedroom doorway, ever protective, ever watchful. I fall asleep listening to his gentle sighs, snores, and snorts. So that's the dog who wouldn't kiss me.